we have to be able to see it in
I just wanted to pick up on a theme that quite a number of participants have mentioned, which is about trying to ensure that 1,000,001 different things are in place before a child turns 18. For the typically developing population, that's fine, and that's why we call them typically developing. They somehow navigate high school, they know what they want to do, they apply for education or jobs, and the sort of 18 or 19 cut-off works fine for that population. It's completely inappropriate for individuals with ASD, usually just struggling to survive in this school environment. Most parents are not pushing self-help skills because they know that would be the straw that would break the camel's back, because the individual with ASD is putting in twice as much effort to survive in a school environment, because every social interaction has to be consciously thought about. So the current model actually is fine for typically developing individuals and inappropriate for the group we're thinking about. And many countries are starting to think that for individuals with developmental disorders, so-called childhood or teenage services should really extend up to probably about 25, so that the individual is in a more protected environment and has the opportunity to learn life skills that they need for employment or for living independently over a time frame that's more realistic. My other comment's completely unrelated, but Karen and I, a couple of years ago, were at a conference in Toronto about employment for people with ASD, which was a really enlightening conference, because what it highlighted was that there was a nice mix of government-led initiatives, but also many more local things that have been established either by one parent or a group of parents that were offering employment opportunities across a wide range of areas and for a wide range of individuals with different levels of ability. And I think that is probably the right model, that we'd wait for 100 years for government to be that flexible. We're very dependent on people with a sort of familial interest in this, working together to create opportunities.
I wanted to talk about, there's a whole bunch of things that were said, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff in my head now. Back to this lady here, and I apologize, I don't know your name, but when you were saying supports for parents, one of the things you could do for families is provide support to advocate to schools. To get in there with families and help them make the school understand that an individual is the same person from the time they get up in the morning to the time they go to sleep at night, that they require the same plan in school and out of school. One of the things that I've worked as a school professional, that I'd like to see is an accountability for people with disabilities to the IEP. If you had a grade 8 math class and everybody took a provincial exam and everybody failed, there'd be some accountability for the teacher. But I have been in too many meetings and worked with too many kids in schools where IEP goals are not met, and everybody sits down at the end of the year and goes, hey, we're going to do that next year. And there's no consequences. So when we say our kids need skills to be taught in school, there needs to be some accountability for schools to families, but also to MCFD and to CLBC as to what kind of education they're giving our kids and what kind of skills and preparations they're making for them when they come out. There is lots of money being spent on schools for support workers. I worked as one of them. You know, it shouldn't be, and I'll be political when I say this, my husband and I used to refer to it as winning the SEA and teacher lottery every year. Do we have individuals who will work with us as a family, who will work with the professionals who will work with our son? When you have speech paths and behavior consultants and OTs and really qualified people who work with your child, and then to be sitting in a meeting where somebody says, school is different, we do what we want here. That makes it very hard for these transitions, but there's money being spent. But like I'm saying, where is the accountability for schools and what they're doing? And to be fair to schools, some schools are doing a great job, and we've had great teachers and great years. I want to make sure I say that too. And great support workers. But it shouldn't be, you know, like you were saying, people coming into your home and not being able to teach your sons how to clean the bathroom. I carry that skill set. I can teach anyone how to clean the bathroom and do it well. I've worked as a behavior interventionist. But I receive training, and I have accountability, and I have professionalism. And I think that the people that work with our children and adults need to have accountability and a certain level of professionalism. And I think sometimes that gets lost because our family members can't tell. Like if somebody works with my son during the day and they do a bad job, he's not telling anyone. And unfortunately, I don't think that's lost. But there are, I mean, great organizations where it doesn't matter because they have the professionalism and they have, you know, systems in place within their organization to treat people the way they should be treated. And there are schools that behave that way too. But unfortunately, one of the huge stresses in any transition, whether it's from preschool to kindergarten, from school to adulthood, is advocating and fighting with people for things that are sensical. Advocating and saying, I want him to be productive at school, and sitting in a meeting with people who are arguing away his productivity. I mean, what are we doing, people? I mean, I've been to too many meetings where I sometimes sit and go, what did we just spend on this meeting? And how might that money have better been used? And I'm thrilled with what you were saying about the transition between CLBC and MCFD. Because our experience with that is there were too many meetings on both sides. And everybody, like you're saying, but CLBC was aware of that. They were very, and obviously making changes because, you know, we were meeting with people from MCFD and then kind of going and have the same meeting again with somebody from CLBC. And as parents, we were saying, could we all be in the same room? Couldn't we invite everybody? But there were rules and different levels and people we were seeing, and I just kept saying, but what if we brought everybody, well, we don't meet about that in front of this level of social worker and when you're starting to move up the ladder, and it's painful and expensive. And I just always sat there going, how much money for these meetings could have been spent on my child?